Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today we're diving into one of the most important building blocks of any REST API, HTTP verbs. They define what action the client wants the server to perform, whether it's reading data, adding new information, updating something, or deleting it. In this video, we're going to break down the four most essential HTTP verbs: get, post, put, and delete. We'll walk through how each one works, when to use them, and the best practices you should follow to build clean and effective APIs. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to understand CRUD. It forms the foundation of how most applications handle data. CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. These four operations map directly to HTTP verbs in a REST API. Here's how it lines up. Create maps to post, read maps to get, update maps to put, delete maps to delete. So anytime you hear someone say CRUD operations, they're usually referring to these four HTTP methods working with your data. Let's start with get, the most commonly used HTTP verb. Think of it like reading something. You're just looking at the information, not changing anything. And technically, get is considered safe because it doesn't alter any data and idempotent, which means making the same request multiple times won't change the result, unless the data on the server actually changes. Now, let's talk through a few best practices when using the get method in your API. First, always use clear, descriptive routes. For example, use /customers to fetch all users, or /customers/ID to fetch a specific one. This keeps your endpoints intuitive and easy to understand, even at a glance. Next, never send sensitive data in the URL. Things like passwords, tokens, or API keys should always be sent in headers or the body of a secure request, never in the query string. URLs get logged, cached, and shared, so keeping sensitive data out of them is a big deal for security. And finally, always return the correct HTTP status code. If the request is successful and the data is returned, go with 200 OK. If the resource doesn't exist, return 404 not found. These status codes help the client know exactly what happened, without guessing. Next, let's talk about post, the verb we use to create new resources on the server. Think of it like filling out a form to register a new customer or submit an order. You're sending data to the server, and it creates something new based on that. Unlike get, post is not idempotent. That means if you accidentally send the same request twice, you might end up with duplicate records. Now let's go over some best practices when using post. These will help you build secure, clean, and easy-to-consume APIs. First, always validate the data you receive. If someone sends a request to create a customer, make sure all the important fields are there, like name and email. If anything's missing or badly formatted, you should return a 400 bad request. Don't just accept whatever comes in. This keeps your database clean and prevents weird bugs later. Next, sanitize that data. Never assume user input is safe. Even if it looks like just a string, someone might try to sneak in something harmful. Use validation libraries or built-in checks to clean it up before saving it to your database. Also, return helpful errors that if something goes wrong, don't just return a generic message. Be specific. Say something like, email is required, or name must be at least 3 characters. This makes it way easier for developers using your API to fix issues quickly and avoids frustration. And finally, document your API clearly. Let people know what fields are required and which ones are optional. If email is required, say that. If phone is optional, great, note it down. Clear docs save everyone time, especially when your API starts growing. Now let's move on to put, which is used for updating an entire resource. A put request says, here's the full new version of this resource. Replace the old one with this. Unlike post, put is idempotent, meaning if you send the same request multiple times, the result stays the same. It doesn't create duplicates or cause unexpected changes. You get the same final state every time. So, let's go over a few best practices when using put. First, always send the full object. Put is meant to replace the entire resource, not just parts of it. So if you leave something out, like an email or a phone number, it could be overwritten or lost completely. Second, don't use put for partial updates. If you only want to change 1 or 2 fields, use patch instead. Put is about replacing, patch is about modifying. Third, be careful with missing fields. If a required field is missing in your request, you might accidentally clear important data. That's why validation is key. Make sure all the fields that need to be there are there. And finally, return the correct status codes. If the update works and there's nothing to return, use 204 no content. But if the customer doesn't exist, return a 404 not found. And finally, we have the delete method, used to remove a resource from a server. It's simple in purpose, but there are still a few important things to get right. Let's go over a few best practices when using the delete method in your APIs. First, delete should always be idempotent. That means, whether the client sends the request once or 5 times, the result should be the same. The resource is gone. No errors, no side effects. Second, think about related data. If you're deleting a customer, what happens to their orders? Do you delete them too? Do you keep them and just unlink the customer? It's important to make this behavior clear and consistent in your API design. Third, consider soft deletes. Sometimes, deleting data permanently isn't the best option, especially if you need it later for reporting, recovery, or auditing. In those cases, a soft delete is better. You just set a flag like is deleted or a deleted at timestamp. In this example, the record still exists, but now your API or service logic knows this customer is no longer active. You can choose to exclude them from regular queries, while still keeping the data around for logs, audit trails, or even recovery. And finally, always return the correct status codes. Use 20 for no content if the deletion was successful. Use 20 for not found if the resource didn't exist in the first place. HTTP verbs are the action words of your API. Using them correctly ensures your endpoints are meaningful, RESTful, and easy to understand, both for you and for any developer consuming your API. We covered the big 4. Get for reading, post for creating, put for replacing, and delete for removing, including when to consider soft deletes. Along the way, we looked at best practices, clean code examples, and how to structure your endpoints to keep your APIs predictable and RESTful. If this video helped you out, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, covering .NET, APIs, YEF Core, and software design tips. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy coding.